Stepsons, the last time I rode this bike, it was more of a workout than I remember it being. A lot of that is because it needs a tune-up. I'm going to take this to my son's house, who is more of a bike expert than I am, and he's going to spend some time with us to show us how to tune up a bike. If you're a boy growing up and your dad isn't in your daily life, and this is the first video you've seen, then make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get other updates, and especially so that you can ask questions and get answers to things that you might need help with. We loaded up the bike and took it to my son Wes's house. Here we are at my real son's house. Wes is going to show us how to tune up a bike.
This tune-up is like after, say, your bike's sat in the garage for winter. The first step you want to do is to clean. You're going to want to get yourself a rag, and you're going to want to get yourself bike cleaner. Simple Green is pretty good stuff. Just start with spritzing a little bit, and I usually start with the frame. Just want to make sure you get as much dust and dirt off as you can. What I normally do in a tune-up is first check the chain, make sure that's looking good. Then I check the shifters and the cables that go to the shifters. You can see there's some right here that goes to the rear shifter, and this cable right here that goes to the front shifter. Now these are called derailers. So you got the chain, you got the derailers, you have the cassette, which is the group of gears back here, and the chain rings. Then move from that to like the brakes, check if the brake pads need adjusting. You can see how when I moved that, the tires started moving. Check to see if the tires need any more air. Basic toolkit you're going to want for cleaning the bike, our lovely flour sack rag and bike cleaner, this one right here. To work on the chain, this chain tool. To lubricate the chain lubricant, and a permanent marker to mark on the chain our tiny flathead screwdriver. The level of sophistication of the kinds of repairs you want to do require a little more specialized tools. So my dad thinks I'm a bike nerd because I have a bike stand and because I have bike maintenance books. About 150 bucks for this. Usually these things run at least like 200 up to 300 bucks. But this one's been decent. This is the Bike Hand YC-100ST, if you wanted to know. Since we've cleaned the frame, now we're wanting to make sure the chain is good and healthy, so to speak. This is a chain stretching measuring tool. This top side here is 0.5, the bottom side is 0.75. From this little notch here to this distance here is precision measured to make sure, because each chain link on here is a specific length. So as you're riding and as you're using up this chain and as it's being shifted from high to low, it wears out over time, and that wearing out means that it gets stretched. So this measures how much stretch. If this chain stretches too far, it's going to start grinding on the gears and on the chain rings, and that's what you want to prevent, because not only will you eventually need to replace the chain, then if you let it wear on these too much, you'll be replacing these too, which turns like, say, a $12 repair into a $30, maybe $50 repair. The way that you use this is you just use this little notch right here. You hook it on one of the chains. If it's a healthy chain, you'll have this gap that you see right there. If it was an elongated chain, it would go down all the way like that. If it does that on the 0.5 side, you better be purchasing a new chain, like today. But if it does hit on the 5, that's when you want to check, because if this goes in, you are probably in for a new chain and new chain rings and a new cassette. The chain looks good so far. The chain tool did not go all the way in, so that means the chain is not elongated. So now what we want to do is we want to clean and lubricate the chain. I want you to hear how this chain sounds. It's very squeaky. So first step is shift the rear derailleur all the way up and shift the front derailleur all the way up too. You want it as far away from the tire as you can get when you're doing this. Find your favorite chain link here and just put a line down the middle with permanent marker. We're going to be rotating this backwards, and we're going to be oiling each or lubricating each of these cogs. You start to see that little line that you drew, then you know you're done. I use T9 bow shield. Just put a little drop there and just keep going. And this gets a little tedious. Got back to the line right there. Well, listen to it again. Hear how fewer squeaks there are? What we want to do is clean off the chain. So you just grab your rag like this, and you just put it underneath like here, and even you can start to see that even just lightly rubbing it will get a lot of dirt off. But we want to just pinch the chain like this, gently at first, just kind of working the chain through like that. And what I like to do is with the cloth like here, right here, what I like to do is move my fingers like this and eventually back like that, but just with the cloth in between. Making sure to get the sides of the chain too, because they still get dirty. After that, you want to run the chain through the different gears you've got here. This is also a good time to check and see if the shifters or if the derailleurs are doing what they're supposed to. For the most part, they look decent. Now, you can see between 7 and 8 here, there's some resistance. Okay, it looks like it's getting worked out. Shifting is good. It looks like the chain's pretty much cleaned off at this point. Let's move on to the brakes now. First thing you want to do is make sure that there's no rubbing. First test is spin the tire and see if you hear any rubbing. I can hear that it's rubbing. And when I put pressure on here, putting this side closer and moving this side further away, you can tell that the tire gives and it starts spinning. It looks like this side needs to be loosened up a little bit. So there are some screws right here, some limit screws. They're pretty tiny, but they determine the tension. So this screw, the more it's inside, the more it's screwed in, the more this will want to pull back. And the more they're let out, the easier this will press towards the tire. We're going to start by letting out this screw a little bit, just a few turns. It's flat right now, so we're just going to give it a half turn and just kind of wiggle that around, listening for rubbing. I think that was pretty easy. And you can see the tire is still able to freely spin. I think we're good on that one. Basically, just rinse and repeat on the front tire here. I don't hear any brake pad rubbing on the front tire here. That is quite a bit of travel for that, however. There's so many different settings you can do. You can adjust how much of the cable is pulled out over here. As you bike and as time goes on, this will elongate, they'll get stretched, meaning you have to pull this further back and further back in order to get the same amount of braking power. So either you use this little thing right here, you unscrew this, and what this does is it basically just pulls on the cable. You unscrew the silver one here, and then you screw back this black one right here, just like that. And you screw that back down. That kind of locks it into place. As it makes it so you have to pull the brake a little bit less of a distance in order to have it brake completely. This is for more smaller fine-tune adjustments. This is if you've maybe lengthened it all the way out, because that can happen, but it's still loose. So you screw that all the way back in, and you go down here, you pull that out some, and then you fine tune again with this thing up here. This brake cable here, that needs to go in there like that. Since we've tightened this front brake a little bit, let's see if the tire is still okay or if it revs now. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, this tire is pretty good. So even though we tightened it a little bit up here, we're still good. The tension between these two arms is still balanced to the point where you're not pedaling against the force of the brake. So that's a tune-up. Yay!
He's giving him his what every boy needs to know about being a man speech.
Get out and ride your bike, but do so with a helmet.
That was a good speech.
All right, stepsons, let's see how it rides. Now that Wes has tuned it up, we'll give it a test drive and see how it does. If you're getting value out of this as a boy growing up without your dad, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and post any questions you've got. Let's go see how the bike rides now. That is a ton better. Thank you, Wes. That was, yeah.
You didn't give me the countdown. Forget that idea. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my $50. You shake the camera. In conclusion,
Okay.
2 thumbs up.